The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES horizon. Captain Jake Harrison stood at the main window, watching as they approached the massive space station ahead. Kepler Station was huge, bigger than any human city. It spun slowly in. The darkness, its lights twinkling like jewels against the black of space. "Distance to station, 200 kilometers and closing," said Commander Ryan Davis from his seat at the controls. His fingers moved quickly over the buttons and screens in front of him. Jake nodded. "Take us in slowly, Ryan. We want to make a good first impression." Dr. Lisa Morgan looked up from her computer. She had been studying alien languages and customs for months, preparing for this moment. "The docking bay they assigned us is on the lower ring. Bay 7. Engineer Sophie Bell checked her readings one more time. "All systems are running perfectly, Captain. The ship is ready." Jake felt proud of his crew. They had worked hard to get here. For 50 years, humans had been trying to join the Galactic Cooperation Alliance. Many alien races belonged to this group. They shared technology, protected each other's trade routes, and worked together to solve problems. Now, finally, humans had a chance to become full members. The UES Horizon was Earth's newest exploration ship. It looked peaceful on the outside, but Jake knew it carried some surprises that other races did not know about. The ship had been built to explore new worlds, but human engineers had made sure it could defend itself if needed. As they got closer to the station, Jake could see other ships docked at various bays. Some looked like giant crystals that sparkled in the light. Others were round and smooth like pearls. A few had strange shapes that hurt to look at directly. Each ship belonged to a different alien race. "Incoming message from the station," Ryan said. He pressed a button, and a voice filled the bridge. The voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Human vessel UES Horizon. This is Kepler Station Control. You are cleared for docking at Bay 7. Welcome to the Alliance." "Thank you, Control," Jake replied. "We are honored to be here." Lisa smiled. That was a Vorthan speaking. "They are. Very formal but friendly. Their leader, Ambassador Zexthara, will meet us when we dock." Sophie finished her final checks. "Docking clamps are ready. All systems show green." The massive station grew larger as they approached. Jake could see tiny figures moving behind the windows of the docking bay. Some looked human-shaped, but others were very different. His heart beat faster with excitement and nervousness. The UES Horizon settled into its docking bay with barely a sound. Jake heard the clamps lock into place and felt the slight vibration as the station's artificial gravity took hold. "Perfect landing, as always," Lisa said with a grin. "Let's get ready to meet our new neighbors," Jake said. He straightened his uniform and checked that his translator device was working properly. They walked through the airlock and stepped onto Kepler Station. The air smelled different, cleaner somehow. The walls were made of some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Strange symbols were written along the corridors in different colors. A tall figure approached them. It looked like it was made of living crystal, with light moving through its body in slow patterns. When it spoke, its voice sounded like the wind chimes they had heard over the radio. "Captain Harrison," the crystal being said, "I am Ambassador Zexthara of the Vorthan Empire. Welcome to Kepler Station." Jake bowed slightly, as Lisa had taught him. "Thank you, Ambassador. We are grateful for this opportunity." Zexthara's crystal. Body pulsed with soft blue light. "Please follow me. I will show you to your quarters, and then we can discuss the proceedings." As they walked through the station's corridors, Jake saw many different aliens. Some floated in the air without touching the ground. Others had too many arms or eyes in strange places. A few looked almost human, but with different colored skin or hair that moved by itself. The station houses representatives from 12 different species. Zexthara explained as they walked. Each race brings its own knowledge and culture to share with the Alliance. They passed a large window that looked out into space. Jake could see several alien ships patrolling around the station. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons clearly visible. Security patrol, Zexthara noticed Jake looking. Standard procedure. Though I must tell you, Captain, we have received some troubling news. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of news? Zexthara stopped walking and turned to face the humans. The light in his crystal body turned from blue to orange. The Scarn Collective has made contact. They have issued what humans would call an ultimatum. Lisa stepped forward. The Scarn? I have read about them in our intelligence reports. They are a hive mind species, very aggressive. More than aggressive, Zexthara said quietly. They are destroyers. Any world they conquer simply disappears. No survivors, no traces left behind. Ryan's hand moved instinctively toward where his weapon would be if he were armed. What do they want? 3 star systems. The Kepler, Miranda, and Centaurus systems. They demand we surrender these systems to them within 48 hours, or they will attack all Alliance worlds. Sophie's eyes widened. How many people live in those systems? Over 2 billion sentient beings across 15 worlds, Zexthara replied. His crystal body dimmed with sadness. Jake felt his stomach tighten. What is the Alliance planning to do? Zexthara began walking again, but more slowly now. That is what we must discuss. The Council will meet tomorrow morning to decide. I fear many representatives will choose to surrender the systems rather than face the Scarn fleet. They reached the human quarters, which were comfortable rooms with beds, desks, and communication equipment. Zexthara showed them where everything was located. Rest well tonight, the Vorthan ambassador said. Tomorrow will be a difficult day. For all of us. After Zexthara left, the 4 humans gathered in Jake's room. Lisa sat at the desk with her computer, pulling up everything she could find about the Scarn Collective. According to our records, the Scarn have destroyed over 30 civilizations in the past 100 years, she said. They use biological technology, ships that are grown rather than built. Their weapons can crack planets in half. Ryan looked out the window at the peaceful scene outside. How big is their fleet? Lisa's face grew pale as she read. Our intelligence estimates at least 10,000 warships. Each one is the size of a small city. Sophie whistled softly. And how many ships does the Alliance have? About 3,000, but most are exploration or trading vessels. Very few actual warships. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. So the Alliance is outnumbered and outgunned. It gets worse, Lisa continued reading. The Scarn don't just kill populations. They absorb them. They take the genetic material from conquered species and use it to make themselves stronger. Ryan stood up and began pacing. So surrender means those 2 billion people die anyway. But if the Alliance fights and loses, 50 billion people across all Alliance worlds could die instead, Sophie pointed out. Jake rubbed his temples. This was not how he had imagined humanity's first major diplomatic mission would go. Instead of negotiating trade agreements and cultural exchanges, they were about to witness the surrender of entire star systems to save others. What would Earth do in this situation? Ryan asked. Jake thought about it carefully. Earth has never faced anything like this, but I know what humans would do. We would fight. We would find a way to evacuate those systems and make the Scarn pay for every inch of space they took. Lisa looked up from her computer. But we are not voting members yet. We can offer advice, but the decision belongs to the Alliance races. Then we better make sure our advice is very good, Jake said quietly. Outside their window, the stars continued to shine peacefully, unaware that tomorrow's decision would determine the fate of billions of lives across the galaxy. The Alliance Council chamber was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The room was shaped like a huge ball, with no clear floor or ceiling. Representatives from different species floated, sat, or stood according to what their bodies needed. Some hung from the curved walls like bats. Others swam through pools of liquid that somehow stayed in place without spilling. Jake and his crew sat in chairs designed for human bodies. They were located in what might be called the middle of the sphere, giving them a view of all the other delegates. Each alien race looked more strange and wonderful than the last. Ambassador Zextara floated near the center of the chamber. His crystal body pulsed with white light as he called the meeting to order. Fellow Alliance members, we face the gravest threat in our organization's history. The Skarn Collective has given us 47 hours to respond to their demands. A floating creature that looked like a jellyfish with too many tentacles spoke up. Its voice bubbled like water. Ambassador Zexthara, have we confirmed the size of their fleet? Yes, Representative Quell. Our long-range sensors have detected over 10,000 Skarn vessels. They are positioned at the edge of the Kepler system, waiting for our answer. A collective gasp went through the chamber. Even though everyone knew the numbers, hearing them spoken aloud made the situation feel more real. A bird-like creature with 4 wings ruffled its feathers nervously. 10,000 ships. Our combined fleet has only 3,000 vessels, and most of those are not built for war. Zexthara's light dimmed slightly. That is correct, Representative Kairos. The mathematics are not favorable. Jake watched as fear spread through the chamber like a disease. Some aliens hugged themselves with multiple arms. Others made sounds that his translator could not convert into words. A few seemed to be praying to whatever gods their species believed. A new voice spoke, high and musical like a flute. We must consider the population numbers. The speaker was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished silver. The 3 systems they demand contain 2.1 billion souls, but the Alliance as a whole protects nearly 50 billion people. More aliens voiced their agreement. The math was simple and terrible. Lose 2 billion to save 50 billion. Zexthara looked around the chamber. Does anyone wish to propose an alternative to surrender? Jake felt his heart pounding. This was his moment to speak, even though humans had no voting rights yet. He stood up slowly. Ambassador Zexthara, may I address the council? Some aliens turned to look at him with curiosity. Others seemed annoyed that a non-member would dare to speak. Zexthara's crystal body pulsed thoughtfully. Captain Harrison, while humans are not yet full members, your species has shown wisdom in smaller matters. Please share your thoughts. Jake took a deep breath. Thank you. I propose a third option. Instead of surrendering the systems, we evacuate them. Move every person, every family, every child to safety. Then we prepare our defenses. The bird-like creature Kairos made a harsh sound. Evacuate 2.1 billion people? Impossible. We do not have enough ships, and the Skarn would attack during the evacuation. Lisa stood up beside Jake. With respect, Representative Kairos, my studies of Skarn behavior suggest that surrender will not satisfy them. Their species does not understand mercy or agreements. It will see surrender as weakness and demand more systems. A creature that looked like a walking tree creaked as it spoke. Young human, you know little of galactic warfare. The Skarn have destroyed 30 civilizations. They keep their word when others surrender. Ryan stood up next. But what happens to the people in those systems after surrender? Do they live peacefully under Skarn rule? The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to answer that question because everyone knew the truth. Sophie stood with her crewmates. Our ship's computers have analyzed the Skarn vessels we have observed. They are biological, grown rather than built. They need organic material to maintain and expand their fleet. The jellyfish-like creature Quell floated closer. What are you suggesting, young engineer? I am suggesting that the Skarn do not want empty systems. They want the people in those systems. Surrender gives them exactly what they need to grow stronger. Angry sounds filled the chamber. Some aliens did not want to hear this truth. Zexthara pulsed with red light for silence. The humans raised disturbing possibilities. However, the immediate problem remains. Our fleet cannot defeat 10,000 Skarn warships. Jake looked around the chamber at all the different species. Each race had evolved differently, developed different technologies, different ways of thinking. But he noticed something important. None of them were thinking like soldiers. Ambassador, may I ask what defensive preparations have been made? Defensive preparations? Zexthara seemed confused by the question. Yes. Are your fleets positioned to protect important worlds? Have you prepared evacuation plans? Do you have weapon systems ready? The silver-skinned alien spoke again. Captain Harrison, the Alliance has been peaceful for over 200 years. We are diplomats and traders, not warriors. Jake felt a chill as he understood the real problem. These species had evolved beyond war. They had forgotten how to fight, how to prepare for battle, how to think tactically. Peace had made them helpless against a species that lived for conquest. What about the station's defenses? Sophie asked. Kepler Station must have some protective systems. The station has shields and communication arrays, Zexthara replied, but no weapons. This is a diplomatic facility. Ryan looked around the chamber with new understanding. You built a meeting place at the center of your territory, but you gave it no way to defend itself. Several aliens began speaking at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of different languages and sounds. The translator struggled to keep up. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the chamber. Red lights flashed on the walls and ceiling. Zexthara's crystal body blazed with bright white light. Attention all delegates, a voice announced over the communication system. We are receiving a transmission from the Skarn fleet. The chamber's main screen activated, showing the image of something that made several aliens cry out in fear. The Skarn representative looked like a nightmare made real. It had too many teeth, eyes that glowed red, and skin that seemed to move and shift constantly. Alliance weaklings, the creature spoke in a voice like grinding metal. We grow tired of waiting. To demonstrate our power, observe. The screen changed to show a view of space. In the distance, a small moon hung peacefully in orbit around a gas giant. The moon looked normal, with craters and mountains on its surface. Then, the Skarn fired. A beam of energy struck the moon, and it simply disappeared. Not destroyed, not broken apart, but completely gone as if it had never existed. Where a world had been, now there was only empty space. The chamber fell into shock. Silence. Several aliens fainted or made sounds of terror. The Skarn representative appeared on screen again. This is the fate of all who oppose us. You have 36 hours remaining. The transmission ended, leaving the delegates staring at a blank screen. Zexthara tried to restore order, but many aliens were too frightened to think clearly. Some were already preparing to leave the station. Others sat in stunned silence. Jake looked at his crew and saw his own thoughts reflected in their faces. The Alliance was going to surrender. These peaceful, civilized beings were about to hand over 2.1 billion innocent people to save themselves. The vote will be held tomorrow morning, Zexthara announced. All delegates should prepare their final positions. As the aliens began to leave the chamber, Jake heard fragments of their conversations. Most were talking about surrender. A few spoke of evacuation, but quickly dismissed it as impossible. The bird-like Kairos flew past the humans. I am sorry. Captain Harrison, Your species shows courage, but courage cannot defeat 10,000 warships. After the chamber emptied, the 4 humans sat alone in the huge spherical room. They are going to surrender, Lisa said quietly. Can we blame them? Sophie asked. The math is simple. 2 billion lives versus 50 billion. Ryan shook his head. But it is not that simple. If the Skarn get those systems, they will use the resources to build more ships. Then they will demand more systems. Eventually, they will take everything. Jake stood up and walked to one of the large windows. In the distance, he could see the lights of the Skarn fleet, tiny dots against the darkness of space. What would Earth do? He asked himself aloud. Earth would fight, Lisa answered. Even against impossible odds. Earth would find a way to make the enemy pay for every victory, Ryan added. Sophie nodded. Earth would never surrender innocent people to save itself. Jake turned back to his crew. Then we need to give the Alliance another option. Something they have not considered. What kind of option? Lisa asked. Jake looked back at the distant enemy fleet, his mind already working on a plan that would either save the galaxy or get them all killed. A human option. While the alien delegates spent the night in their quarters, the 4 humans worked through the darkness in the U.E.S. Horizon's tactical center. The room was small, but packed with computers, communication equipment, and screens showing star charts. And ship movements. Lisa sat at her main console, reading through thousands of files about the Skarn Collective. Her eyes were red from staring at the screen, but she kept working. I think I found something important, she said. Jake, Ryan, and Sophie gathered around her workstation. On the screen was a detailed analysis of Skarn battle tactics from previous wars. Look at this pattern. Lisa pointed to a series of diagrams. Every time the Skarn attack a system, they do the same thing. They send their main fleet to the largest planet and position support ships around smaller worlds. Ryan studied the diagrams. They always put their command ship in the center of the formation. That huge vessel must be where their hive mind leaders coordinate the attack. Exactly, Lisa continued. The Skarn are not independent thinkers like humans. They are all connected to central commanders. If something happens to those commanders, the entire fleet becomes confused. Sophie pulled up technical readings on her own screen. I have been studying the station's power systems all night. Kepler Station has 6 massive fusion reactors that power everything. Life support, gravity, shields, communications. What about them? Jake asked. Sophie's fingers moved quickly over her controls, bringing up engineering diagrams. These reactors are incredibly powerful. Much more powerful than they need to be for a diplomatic station. If someone overloaded them all at once. She paused, looking at her calculations. What would happen? Ryan prompted. The explosion would be equivalent to a small star going supernova. It would destroy everything within a radius of about 50,000 kilometers. Jake felt his pulse quicken. How close would the Skarn fleet need to be for that to work? They would need to be right on top of us. Maybe a few thousand kilometers away at most. Lisa looked up from her research. According to these battle reports, the Skarn always position their command ships close to important targets. They like to personally oversee the destruction. Ryan walked over to the tactical display, showing the current positions of both fleets. So if we could somehow lure their main force close to the station ... we could take out their leadership and maybe half their fleet in one explosion. Sophie finished. The 4 humans looked at each other in silence. They all understood what this plan would mean. Someone would need to stay behind to manually trigger the reactors, Sophie said quietly. The explosion would need to be timed perfectly. Too early, and we miss most of their fleet. Too late, and they might detect what we are doing. Jake turned to the communication console. I need to contact Earth Command. The connection took several minutes to establish. When Admiral Kate Collins appeared on the screen, she looked tired. It was late at night, back on Earth as well. "Captain Harrison, I was hoping to hear from you. How did the diplomatic mission go?" Jake quickly explained the situation with the Scarn ultimatum and the Alliance's plan to surrender. Admiral Collins listened without interrupting, but her expression grew more serious with each detail. 10,000 enemy ships, she said when Jake finished. "And the Alliance has no military experience." "None at all, Admiral. They are good people, but they have forgotten how to fight." Collins leaned back in her chair. "What is your assessment, Captain? If the Alliance surrenders those systems, the Scarn will be back in a few years demanding more. Eventually, they will consume the entire galaxy. And if the Alliance fights, they will lose. Their ships are not designed for war, and their crews do not think tactically." Admiral Collins was quiet for a long moment. "What do you need from me, Jake?" "I need full operational authority to act as I see fit. And I need you to know that we might not be coming home." The Admiral's face remained calm, but Jake could see the sadness in her eyes. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" Jake looked at his crew. Lisa nodded firmly. Ryan gave him a thumbs up. Sophie smiled and said, "Earth does not abandon its friends." "We are sure, Admiral." Collins straightened in her chair. "Then you have full authority to represent Earth and humanity in whatever action you deem necessary. Make us proud, Captain." "We will, Admiral." Harrison out. The connection ended, leaving the four humans alone with their desperate plan. "There is something else," Lisa said, turning back to her research. "I found some intercepted Scarn communications. A translation is rough, but I think I understand what they really want." She brought up the alien text on her screen, with the computer's translation underneath. "They are not just expanding for territory or resources. They are collecting genetic material from different species. Each race they conquer makes their own biology stronger." Ryan's face darkened. "So even if the Alliance surrenders, those 2 billion people will not live as slaves. They will be harvested." "Worse than that," Lisa continued. "The communications mentioned something about optimal specimens and leadership consumption. I think they plan to capture the Alliance delegates right here on the station." Sophie looked up from her engineering console. "That would make sense. If they absorb the genetic material from the smartest individuals of each species, they gain all of that knowledge and intelligence." Jake felt sick. The surrender is a trap. They never intended to honor any agreement. Should we warn the Alliance? Ryan asked. Jake thought about it. Even if we tell them, what can they do? They still cannot fight 10,000 warships. But maybe they would be willing to try our plan, Lisa suggested. "No," Sophie said firmly. "If we tell them about the reactor overload, they will want to evacuate the station first. That would alert the Scarn and ruin our chance for surprise." Jake realized that they were completely alone. The Alliance could not help them. Earth was too far away to send reinforcements. 4 humans against 10,000 enemy ships. "Are we really going to do this?" he asked his crew. "Captain," Ryan said, "I joined the space service to explore the galaxy and meet new civilizations. These alien species are good people. They deserve to live in peace." Lisa nodded. "My whole life has been about understanding other cultures. I cannot stand by and watch them be destroyed by monsters." Sophie smiled sadly. "My engineering designs were meant to help humans explore the stars. If I can use them to save innocent lives, then my work will have meaning." Jake felt proud of his crew, proud of his species, and proud to be human. "Then we do this. We save the galaxy." They spent the remaining hours of the night preparing. Sophie worked on the reactor overload sequence, calculating exactly how long each step would take. Lisa compiled all her research about Scarn weaknesses to transmit to the evacuating Alliance ships. Ryan prepared tactical recommendations for future battles against the Ska-Arn. Recorded messages for their families. Back on Earth, explaining why they had chosen to stay and fight. As artificial dawn approached on the station, alarms began sounding again. The long-range sensors had detected movement in the Skarn fleet. They are not waiting for the deadline, Ryan reported. The fleet is beginning to move toward the station. On the main screen, they could see the enemy ships advancing like a dark cloud across space. At the center of the formation was the largest vessel any of them had ever seen. It was easily 50 kilometers long and covered with weapons. That must be their command ship, Lisa said. The Prime Devourer, Sophie read from the intelligence files. Home to the Central Hive Mind leadership. Jake opened a communication channel to all Alliance delegates on the station. Attention all representatives. This is Captain Harrison. The Skarn fleet is approaching ahead of schedule. We are implementing emergency evacuation procedures. All non-essential personnel must reach the escape pods immediately. Confused voices filled the communication channel. Several aliens demanded to know what was happening. There is no time to explain, Jake continued. Trust us. Get to the evacuation bays now. Through the station's windows, they could see the alien delegates running through the corridors toward the escape pods. Some floated, some flew, some crawled, but all of them moved with desperate speed. Ambassador Zexthara's voice came over the communication system. Captain Harrison, what are you doing? We have not held the vote yet. Jake looked at his crew one final time. They all nodded, ready to face whatever came next. Ambassador, we are casting humanity's vote. We choose to fight. The evacuation alarms screamed through every corridor of Kepler Station as hundreds of alien delegates ran for their lives. Through the station's massive windows, the approaching Skarn fleet looked like a swarm of angry insects, their bioships, pulsing with sickly light as they closed the distance. Jake stood in the station's command center, watching the evacuation on multiple screens. The aliens moved as quickly as their different bodies allowed. Some flew through the air with wings or antigrav devices. Others crawled on multiple legs or slithered like snakes. All of them were terrified. Evacuation Pod 7 has launched. Ryan reported from his position at the tactical console. That is Ambassador Zexthara's group. Pod 12 is away, Sophie called out from the engineering station. Life support pods are all functional. Lisa monitored the communication channels, listening to the frightened voices of the evacuating aliens. They are asking what we are doing, Jake. They want to know why we are not coming with them. Jake opened a ship-wide communication channel. This is Captain Harrison to all evacuation pods. You need to reach minimum safe distance of 100,000 kilometers. Do not come back for us under any circumstances. Ambassador Zexthara's crystal voice came through the speakers. Captain, what are you planning? You cannot fight 10,000 ships with one vessel. We are not fighting them, Ambassador. We are stopping them. Jake closed the channel before Zexthara could ask more questions. There was no time to explain, and he did not want the aliens to feel guilty about what was going to happen. Sophie looked up from her console. All evacuation pods have cleared the station. They are moving to safe distance. How long until the Skarn arrive? Jake asked. Ryan checked his sensors. 20 minutes at current speed. They are not trying to hide their approach. On the main screen, they could see the enemy fleet in terrifying detail. The ships looked like living creatures rather than machines. They had what appeared to be skin instead of metal hulls, and many had tentacles or other organic growths extending from. Their sides dot at the center of the formation was the Prime Devourer, the Skarn command ship. It was massive beyond imagination, easily the size of a small city. Rows of glowing spots along its hull might have been eyes or weapons or something worse. They are transmitting, Lisa announced. The main screen changed to show the interior of the enemy command ship. The walls looked like the inside of some giant creature, with veins and organs visible through translucent surfaces. In the center stood several Skarn commanders. The creatures were nightmarish. They had too many limbs, each ending in sharp claws. Their heads were elongated with multiple eyes and rows of teeth. Most disturbing was the way they moved, as if they were all controlled by the same mind. Inhabitants of the diplomatic station. One of the creatures spoke in a voice like grinding metal. We know you are still aboard. Surrender now and your genetic material will be processed quickly. Jake looked at his crew. Should we answer them? Why not? Ryan said with a grim smile. Let them know what they are dealing with. Jake activated the communication system. This is Captain Jake Harrison of the human ship UES Horizon. We reject your demands. The Skarn commanders tilted their heads in unison, a disturbing sight. Humans, we have heard of your species. You are new to this galaxy. You do not understand our power. We understand perfectly, Jake replied. We also understand that you have no intention of honoring any surrender. You plan to harvest everyone regardless of what the Alliance decides. The lead Skarn made a sound that might have been laughter. Clever mammals. Yes, all genetic material will be absorbed. The Alliance species have grown weak through peace. They will make us stronger. Lisa leaned toward the microphone. You made one mistake in your research. What mistake, little mammal? You studied the Alliance species, but you did not study humans. We have not grown weak through peace. We remember how to fight. The Skarn commander leaned closer to the screen. 4 humans against 10,000 ships. You amuse us. Sophie spoke. Up from her console. We do not need to defeat 10,000 ships. We only need to defeat you. The transmission ended abruptly. Through the windows, they could see the Skarn fleet spreading out around the station. Just as Lisa had predicted, the Prime Devourer was positioning itself directly next to Kepler. Station. Distance to the command ship? Jake asked. 3,000 kilometers in closing, Ryan reported. Perfect range for our plan. Sophie began the final preparation sequence for the reactor overload. I need to access the main engineering section to complete the manual override. The automated systems will not allow this level of overload. I will go with you, Ryan offered. No, Sophie said firmly. This is technical work. I need to do it. Alone, and someone needs to stay here to coordinate with the evacuation fleet. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. How long do you need? 15 minutes to bypass all the safety systems. Then another 5 minutes to build up to critical overload. And the timing? Sophie checked her calculations one more time. When I start the final sequence, we will have exactly 3 minutes. Before the explosion. The Skarn fleet needs to be in optimal position. Through the windows, they could see Skarn boarding pods launching from the enemy ships. The creatures were coming aboard the station to capture them personally. They want to take us alive, Lisa observed. That gives us some time. Jake opened a communication channel to the evacuation fleet. Ambassador Zexthara, can you hear me? Yes, Captain. We are at safe distance. What is your status? We are about to engage the enemy. I am transmitting all of our research data about the Skarn to your ships. Dr. Morgan has identified several weaknesses that future Alliance forces can exploit. Lisa worked quickly at her console, uploading years of human intelligence about the Skarn collective. Captain, Zexthara's voice carried both admiration and sadness. Why are you doing this? You could evacuate with us. Jake looked around the command center at his 3 friends, the best crew he had ever served with. Because this is what humans do. We protect our friends. Ryan added, Tell the galaxy that Earth stands with the Alliance. Always. Sophie looked up from her engineering console. I am ready to begin the reactor sequence. Everyone needs to take positions. Jake felt his heart pounding. This was it. The moment that would either save the galaxy or see them all die in failure. Sophie, begin the overload sequence. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced precision. Deep in the station's core, the fusion reactors began to change their output patterns. Overload initiated. 15 minutes to manual trigger. Point. The first Scarn boarding parties were now inside the station. They could hear the creatures moving through the corridors, their claws clicking on the metal floors. Jake, Lisa said quietly, I want you to know that serving with you has been the honor of my life. Same here, Ryan agreed. No regrets. Sophie smiled as she continued working. When Earth hears about this, they will know that humans keep their promises. The Scarn were getting closer. They could hear the creatures breaking through bulkheads and sealed doors. The aliens had expected to find cowering prisoners, but instead they found empty corridors and locked blast doors. 10 minutes until manual. Trigger, Sophie reported. Jake opened one final communication to the evacuation fleet. This is our last transmission. Tell the galaxy that humanity chose to stand and fight. Tell them that some things are worth dying for. The sound of tearing. Metal echoed through the station as the Scarn finally broke through the last barriers. Jake could see them on the security cameras, moving through the corridors with predatory grace. They are heading for the command center, Ryan observed. Should we lock the doors? No point, Jake replied. Those creatures can tear through anything. Sophie worked frantically at her console. 5 minutes to manual trigger. The reactors are building toward critical mass. The first Scarn appeared at the entrance to the command center. It was even more terrifying in person than on the screen. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, with skin that seemed to shift and move on its own. Its multiple eyes focused on the 4 humans with predatory interest. Humans, it spoke with that grinding metal voice. You will come with us. Your genetic material will be most useful. Jake stepped forward, placing himself between the creature and his crew. We are not going anywhere. More Scarn entered the room, surrounding the humans. Their claws gleamed in the artificial light, and their teeth were clearly designed for tearing flesh. You have no choice, the lead creature said. Surrender now, and your processing will be swift. Sophie continued working at her console, her hands steady despite the monsters surrounding them. 3 minutes to manual trigger. The Scarn leader noticed her actions. What is the female doing? Something you would not understand, Lisa replied calmly. She is saving innocent lives. One of the other Scarn moved toward Sophie's console. Jake immediately stepped in its path. I would not do that if I were you. The creature laughed, a horrible sound like breaking glass. 1 human against our entire species. You are either very brave or very stupid. Both, Ryan said with a grin. Sophie looked up from her work. 2 minutes. Jake, I need to get to the manual controls in the reactor chamber. The Scarn leader's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You are overloading the reactors. Impossible. No species, woe. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. From their safe distance, the evacuated Alliance delegates watched in stunned silence as Kepler Station and the surrounding Scarn fleet disappeared in a ball of pure energy. The blast was so bright that their ship's windows automatically darkened to protect their eyes. Ambassador Zexthara stood at the observation deck of the rescue ship, his crystal body pulsing with colors that had no names. Around him, representatives from 12 different species watched the light slowly fade, leaving only empty space where moments before there had been thousands of ships. They did it, whispered Representative Quell, the jellyfish-like creature. Her tentacles floated limply in the artificial current of her life support tank. 4 humans destroyed the entire Skarn command fleet. The bird-like Kairos spread his 4 wings in a gesture of respect. I called them naive. I was wrong. They were the bravest beings I have ever encountered. On the sensor screens, they could see the results of the human sacrifice. The massive Prime Devourer was completely gone, vaporized in the explosion. Over 4,000 other Skarn vessels had been destroyed or damaged beyond repair. The remaining enemy ships floated dead in space, their crews confused and leaderless without their hive-mind commanders. "Look at the surviving ships," observed the silver-skinned delegate from Meridia. "They are not moving in formation anymore. They seem lost." Lisa's final research transmission was being analyzed by the Alliance's best scientists. Her data showed that the Skarn hive mind structure was completely dependent on central command nodes. Without their leaders, the individual creatures became little more than confused animals as they watched. The remaining Skarn vessels began to retreat in random directions. Some collided with each other in their panic. Others simply drifted aimlessly through space. The mighty fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was breaking apart. "Captain Harrison was right," Sexthara said quietly. "They found the Skarn weakness that none of us could see." The tree-like representative from Verdania creaked sadly. "But at such a cost. Those 4 humans gave their lives for people they had known for only 1 day." "No," said a new voice. Admiral Kate Collins appeared on the communication screen, her image transmitted from Earth Command. "They gave their lives for something much more important than that." The alien delegates turned to face the human admiral. Her uniform was crisp, and her expression was calm, but they could see the grief in her eyes. "Admiral Collins," Sexthara acknowledged, "we are sorry for your loss. Captain Harrison and his crew died as heroes." Collins nodded. "They died as humans. They saw innocent people in danger and chose to act, even when the odds were impossible." "Will Earth blame the Alliance for their deaths?" asked Representative Kairos nervously. Collins was quiet for a moment. "Earth grieves for our lost children, but we do not blame the Alliance. Captain Harrison made his choice freely, as did his crew. They died protecting the values that make civilization worth preserving." Over the following hours, word of the Battle of Kepler Station spread across the galaxy through quantum communication networks. The story grew with each telling, but the basic facts remained the same. 4 humans had willingly sacrificed themselves to save billions of innocent lives. On the Vorthan homeworld, crystalline beings gathered in their great halls to discuss. The humans who had chosen death over surrender. The concept was so alien to their peaceful nature that they struggled to understand it, but they recognized its nobility. The water-dwelling Aquarians composed flowing songs about the crew of the crew. UES Horizon. Their musical language turned the story into an epic that would be sung for generations. The scholarly Keth immediately began compiling detailed records of human psychology and behavior. They wanted to understand how a species could produce individuals capable of such sacrifice, but it was among the more vulnerable species that the human actions had the greatest impact. The peaceful Meridians, who had been preparing to surrender rather than fight, began requesting defensive alliances with Earth. The agricultural Verdanians offered to provide food for human colonies in exchange for protection. 3 days after the battle, Ambassador Zexthara received a message that changed everything. It came from the Outer Rim territories, where several independent worlds had been targeted by Skarn scouting fleets. "Ambassador," the message began, "this is Governor Chun of the Arcturus colony. We are under attack by Skarn forces. They demand our surrender, but we have heard the story of Kepler Station. We choose to resist. Are there any humans available to assist us?" More messages followed. A dozen different worlds, all facing Skarn threats, all requesting human help. The mere mention that humans might be involved was enough to make several Skarn commanders withdraw rather than face the species that had destroyed their leadership. Admiral Collins authorized the deployment of Earth's deep space fleets to assist threatened worlds. When human ships arrived at these battle zones, they found that half the work was already done. The Skarn fear of human tactics had spread through their scattered fleets. The first major engagement came at the Tau Ceti system, where Commander Helen Price led a small human task force against a Skarn raiding party. The enemy had expected easy prey, but instead found humans who fought with the same desperate courage that had destroyed the Prime Devourer. The battle lasted only 6 hours. The human ships used tactics that the Skarn had never encountered. Coordinated missile strikes, ramming attacks, and suicide runs that targeted enemy command nodes. When the surviving Skarn vessels fled, they carried with them stories of human ferocity that spread terror through their species. Within 6 months, the Skarn collective had completely withdrawn from Alliance space. The scattered remnants of their fleets retreated to the outer galaxy, too frightened and disorganized to launch new attacks. The Alliance held a memorial service at the site where Kepler Station had stood. They built a monument there, a crystal structure that reflected the light of nearby stars. On its base were inscribed the names Jake Harrison, Lisa Morgan, Ryan Davis, and Sophie Bell, along with a simple message in 12 different languages. They chose to stand. But the real memorial was the change in galactic civilization itself. The Alliance Council voted unanimously to grant humanity full membership and invited Earth to lead the newly formed Galactic Defense Council. Human military advisors were stationed throughout Alliance space, teaching defensive tactics to species that had forgotten how to fight. More importantly, the story of Kepler Station became the foundation myth for a new age of galactic cooperation. Children of many species learned about the humans who chose death over dishonor. The tale was told in crystal songs on Vorthen, in flowing water poetry by the Aquarians, and in precise historical records by the Keth. On Earth, the families of the 4 heroes received letters from across the galaxy. Alien children drew pictures of the brave humans. Scientists from a dozen worlds offered to name new discoveries after them. Musicians composed symphonies in their honor. Admiral Collins stood in the Earth Command Memorial Garden, looking at 4 new trees planted in honor of the fallen crew. Each tree was from a different Alliance world, gifts from grateful species. They wanted to explore the galaxy and meet new civilizations, she said to the gathered crowd. They succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. Today, there is not a single intelligent species in known space that does not know their names. The memorial ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Beings who had never seen a human watched as Admiral Collins spoke about courage, sacrifice, and the values that make life worth living. Jake, Lisa, Ryan, and Sophie did not die for Earth, she concluded. They died for the idea that innocent people deserve to live in freedom. They died for the belief that civilization must be defended, even at the ultimate cost. They died as examples of what all of us can become when we choose to be better than our fears. As the years passed, the legend of Kepler Station continued to grow. Human exploration ships were welcomed at every Alliance world, often with parades and celebrations. Human colonies received offers of assistance and friendship from species who had never trusted outsiders before. But perhaps the most important change was in how conflicts were resolved. When aggressive species threatened Alliance worlds, the mere suggestion that humans might become involved was often enough to end hostilities. The galaxy had learned that while humans could be the most loyal friends any species could ask for, they were also the most dangerous enemies any aggressor could face. The 4 names from the UE's horizon became symbols of hope across 1,000 worlds. Parents told their children stories of the humans who chose to die as heroes rather than live as cowards. The incident at Kepler Station had indeed made humans the most feared and honored species in the galaxy, just as the title promised. In the depths of space, where the monument to their sacrifice caught the light of distant stars, their memory lived on as proof that sometimes 4 people with courage can change the destiny of an entire galaxy.